We're leaving. Leaving, my grandfather Elias echoed. The Jews have gotten closer. We've decided to leave until things calm down and we can return. His friend, the old shepherd, replied. In 2 days, they were gone. They took everything, their clothes, blankets, pots and pans. They even took their chickens. Elias' son, Sabri, a boy of 10 at the time, knew this because he went to their village. Riding his father's donkey, he made his way to the Deir, as it was locally known. Deir el-Asi was 5 times larger than Sabri's village, Fasuta, and had been teeming with life. He had often seen its peasants carrying produce home from their fields. But on that day, as he approached it, nothing moved. There was no human or animal in sight. He urged the donkey forward through the alleys. Its steps echoed in the eerie silence, broken only by the rustle of the wind through the trees. The entire village, with its houses, gardens, and paths, was empty, he recounted years later. Wind blowing through it and windows creaking. I've never seen a more depressing sight. The image continues to haunt me when I think of the war. Desolately, he turned the donkey around. As they made their way back, he spotted a lone chicken pecking at the ground and suddenly felt sorry for it. Back in Fasuta, he left the donkey and rushed to his grandfather's house. There was quite a commotion. Tens of people were gathered outside. They were not from the village. Some had blankets and others carried bundles, too heavy for their backs or heads. Babies were crying and children stared with frightened eyes. Cautiously, Sabri pushed in between them, making his way into the house. Some of them had gone inside. He searched the faces fervently until he found his grandfather. Jiryis stood near the kitchen, issuing orders to his wife as more people crowded in. Sidi, Sabri panted, squeezing through the crowd and edging up to him. What's going on? Quiet, boy. Jiryis turned back to his wife, Raji, who was laying a loaf of bread on the table. She opened a large clay pot, filled to the rim with balls of a soft white cheese, Lebanese. Deftly, she spooned one out and spread it onto the loaf, rolled it, and handed it to the nearest man. Eat, Jiryis urged him. Please, this is your house. The man looked pained as he took the food and mumbled his thanks. Sabri looked up at his grandfather. Sidi, who are these people? Quiet, Jiryis said, more impatiently this time. Go out and play. Come back later. But Sabri snuck into a corner and waited. Suddenly, a little boy of about his age stared back at him. He was holding his mother's hand. Sabri wanted to talk to him, take him outside to play, but somehow it did not seem right. He looked back at his grandmother, who seemed to be feeding the entire crowd, and felt a slight panic. What if she ran out of Lebanese and could not make him her tasty sandwiches anymore? Finally, an old man in a white headdress stepped up to Jiryis. Thank you, brother, he said gruffly. May God repay you with every good. We should be on our way. Jiryis nodded. Beads of perspiration gathered on his brow. He wiped them with the edge of his headdress. Voices of thanks were heard, hollow, cheerless voices, and the crowd began to shuffle, gathering their things. Led by their elder, they began a long trail out of the village. The little boy held his mother's hand and stole one last look back at Sabri. Sidi, where are they going? Sabri blurted out. North, his grandfather mumbled. His wife had come out of the house to join them and stood next to him. As they watched the receding figures, she lifted her apron to wipe a tear from her cheek. Jiryis, seemingly on the verge of doing the same, cleared his throat roughly and instructed her to go inside. They moved into the house as a chilly breeze picked up in the late autumn sunset. Come, Sidi, he muttered to Sabri, sitting down wearily. He took out his tobacco and rolled a cigarette. Sabri sat next to him and waited. He looked from one grandparent to the other. I was in the Deir today, he said finally. There's no one there. Jiryis nodded and took a deep puff. Raji retreated to the kitchen. Where have they gone, Sidi? Sabri persisted. To Lebanon. Them too? The boy struggled to understand. Those people just now, are they from the Deir too? No, they're from Tarshiha. Why are they leaving? The Jews, Jiryis said in sudden anger. They will destroy the country.